Welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. Well, it looks like the Republicans in the Senate have finally got their act together, at least for now. They passed a spending bill, which was an important thing, but it paved the way for tax reform. And the American people are saying, can you deliver? And the president is saying to the Republicans, you better deliver. We've got to have middle-class tax cuts. We've got to have business tax cuts, because American corporations are now paying some of the highest taxes in the world. And Republicans say that with this bill, they can make the economy stronger and put more money into people's wallets, sometime in the thousands of dollars. It is a major, major breakthrough, and they got it through the usual 51-49, but they got it through.
They got it through. That was the stage that was set last night to make a difference for all of this. The Senate had to pass the budget that Pat was talking about for the debate on the tax code to go forward. And as Jenna Browder reports from Washington, they got the job done. So let's see what's going to happen, Jenna.
The stage is set for a tax reform bill after the Senate pushed through a $4 trillion budget last night. Republicans want to completely overhaul the U.S. tax code, including cutting rates for individuals and corporations, and at the same time eliminating trillions of dollars of deductions and special interest tax breaks.
The President and I believe that the tax code's too complicated. Maybe some of you agree.
Vice President Mike Pence touting tax reform in New York.
The truth is that the American people spend millions of hours and billions of dollars filling out our taxes every year. And I'm anxious to hear if people around this table have that feeling as well. Under the President's plan, 90% of the American people will be able to file their taxes on one piece of paper without professional help.
But divisions within the GOP could hold up the process. Appearing on CBN's online political show, Faith Nation, Senator Marco Rubio stressed the importance of getting something done. How concerned are you that the GOP could lose the majority in the midterms?
I think if we don't do what we said we were going to do, people have a right to ask themselves, well, why do we need you there? And it's frustrating as someone who has supported all these things to see one or two people standing in the way of us actually doing. Hopefully that'll change with tax reform. Democrats blasted the GOP budget, saying it will shower benefits on top bracket earners, corporations, business partnerships, and people inheriting multi-million-dollar estates.
But I think it is terribly important, and I really do appeal to the media, to allow for a serious discussion on what I consider to be the cruelest and most unfair budget presented by the majority party in the modern history of this country.
We beat the Trump healthcare scam twice, and we're going to beat him a third time on his tax scam.
President Trump promises the tax plan, which is still being finalized, is aimed at helping the middle class.
And frankly, I think we have the votes for the tax cuts, which will follow fairly shortly thereafter.
All told, Senate Republicans would cut spending by more than $5 trillion over a decade, though it's unclear where the cuts would come from. It's a heavy lift to pass tax reform by the end of the year. But if Congress can do it, this will be the first bill of its kind passed since 1986, when President Reagan was in office. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Well, it's long overdue. Now, can you imagine? It's so cruel for him to say it's cruel. It's $5 trillion worth of spending. It's cruel. I mean, this is ridiculous. They've doubled the... you have in your taxes, you can either take an itemized deduction or you can take the standard deduction, and they've raised the standard deduction, which will affect most of the filers. To say that's cruel is ridiculous, because it's going to put $1,000, $2,000 into people's pockets. The thing about it is, the only people who pay taxes are the ones who will get some benefit. And if you're not paying any taxes now, what difference does it make? A lot of people are not paying any taxes at all. So this is going to give some relief to those who do pay taxes. And I think it's important to recognize that. But this rhetoric coming out of the Democrats is nonsense. Cruel budget, come off it. It's nothing cruel about it. It's just a question of how much money can we afford to, spend. But this is going to make a major shift in certain of these deductions. They want to take away the mortgage interest on big, expensive property. they want to take away the deductions for the income taxes of the states, which is a big deal. And if they take those deductions away, they won't have as much play in this bill as it sounds like, because they'll have enough money to pay for a lot of these cuts. And it's important to do it. But it seemed like to me they ought to get the cuts in first, because if they wait to reform the whole tax code, it is a monstrosity. It's got more pages than the Bible, for heaven's sakes. And to go through that item by item will be a nightmare. So they need to get some of these major cuts in personal rates, the cuts in the corporate rate particularly, and get that out of the way. And there's certain things like, for example, the death tax. They could do away with that. There are other things that are easy to do. Maybe it's not easy to get it through, but it doesn't take a lot of technical work. And then they can get to the nitty-gritty of reforming the tax code. But anyhow, it's a major, major vote in the Senate, and it bodes well for the passage of the tax reform. Well, in other news, we're going to be getting our first look at another one of President Trump's top priorities, the wall. The wall with Mexico. Ephraim Graham has that.
Pat, just south of San Diego, we're getting an early glimpse at what that border wall might look like. Our national security correspondent Eric Rosales shows us prototypes of what could eventually run along the U.S.-Mexico border.
Despite ongoing debate, work continues on a construction project to build a border wall in Otay Mesa, a community just outside of San Diego. 6 companies are vying for a major construction contract. The companies have just 30 days to build a total of 8 prototypes. Designs must also meet specific requirements.
Anti-climbing, anti-digging, anti-scaling. They're going to have to be safe for the Border Patrol agents that work the area.
Agent Eduardo Olmos wouldn't break down the company's tactics, but you can clearly see spikes on at least one model. Another includes a bit of a slant, and this one contains an anti-climbing texture.
4 of them will be concrete. The other 4 will be other than concrete.
The massive prototypes will be 30 feet high and 30 feet wide. The fact that each one is isolated gives them a towering appearance. The cost is between $300,000 to $500,000 each. Since the final design is yet to be chosen, exact estimates aren't available. A Homeland Security internal report estimates the wall could cost more than $21 billion, and that doesn't include the cost to maintain it. Maintenance of the current fencing runs around $55 million a year.
Build a wall, build a wall, build a wall, build a wall.
A centerpiece for the president's campaign to make America great again, the wall has sparked a lot of controversy. Still, the concept is nothing new. Olmos says before the wall was built along the sector near San Diego in the early 1990s, around 600,000 people were arrested in just 1 year. He says the current wall has made a difference, but it can be improved.
Unfortunately, those actually just sit on the ground, and rudimentary tunnels can actually be dug underneath them very easily.
Ironically, the prototype construction comes at a time when border crossings are down. According to the Office of Immigration Statistics, people attempting to illegally cross any state along the U.S. border are unsuccessful 55 to 85% of the time. Yet assaults on Border Patrol agents in the same sector number 83 this year. That's an increase over last year when 52 assaults occurred, but nowhere near the peak in 2008 when agents recorded 377 assaults. How will the prototypes be tested? Homeland Security tells me that's a secret. The agency did tell CBN News the prototypes will be tested by teams on which ones are hardest to scale, dig under, and break through, and it will not be done in the public's eye. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
White House Chief of Staff John Kelly delivered a strong defense Thursday of President Trump's phone call to the widow of Green Beret LaDavid Johnson. He was killed by ISIS terrorists in an ambush in Niger earlier this month. Florida Representative Frederica Wilson had criticized the president for his being insensitive when he called Thompson's widow. Kelly said he was stunned by Wilson's criticism. Kelly said President Trump wanted to make the calls to military families, and he defended the president's phone call.
In his way, tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted.
Kelly called Representative Wilson a, quote, empty barrel who makes noise. A spokesperson for Wilson said the controversy should not be about her, but about remembering and honoring a fallen hero and fighting for his family. Pat?
Kelly has become a national hero through his magnificent statement. You know, what he said is, I lost a son, and my chief of staff came to me and said, how do you handle it? And what he said was, my son volunteered to do what he did. He knew what he was getting into, and he gave his life, and he's a hero. Now, that was the response of a general to a general. And so the general advised the president, that's what you say. And for this congresswoman to go off half-cocked and start attacking Kelly, who is himself a hero and a Gold Star father, who walked among the graves in Arlington and looked at the dead fallen heroes, and who said a magnificent statement. But that's the truth. It isn't a nice, sweet thing. You say, oh, dear lady, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss, and I want to comfort you in your grief. What he was told by his aide, another general, look, he volunteered for it. He's a hero. He wanted to do it. He wanted to go out and face the enemy. And he gave his life for this country. That is not necessarily a sugar-coated message, but it's a message that every parent should be proud of, that their child, if they were dying in the service of this country, that they embraced the opportunity to serve. And that's what he said. So I wish that congresswoman would get off her high horse. I mean, she has become a laughingstock, in my opinion. Ephraim?
Pat, President Trump defended the U.S. response to the crisis in Puerto Rico after back-to-back hurricanes devastated the island, including a direct hit from Hurricane Maria, which knocked out power across the island and left areas without clean water. Asked to rate the U.S. effort on a scale of 1 to 10, the president gave the U.S. effort the highest marks.
I'd say it was a 10. I'd say it was probably the most difficult when you talk about relief, when you talk about search, when you talk about all of the different levels, and even when you talk about lives saved. You look at the number. I mean, this was, I think it was worse than Katrina. It was, in many ways, worse than anything people have ever seen.
Operation Blessing is also in Puerto Rico, providing vital emergency relief. Operation Blessing is helping to provide water to thousands of Puerto Ricans every day. And about 300 families in the community of La Perla were some of the first to benefit. A water purification unit provided by Operation Blessing turned salt water into drinking water for that tiny community. Operation Blessing has also distributed more than 100,000 aqua tabs to disinfect the drinking water. This is only part of Operation Blessing's response to help disaster victims there, and teams are sending additional relief to the island even as we speak. Pat?
Well, Bill Horan, I was talking to yesterday about what their response to Operation Blessing is down there. And he said, the mayor of San Juan loves us. This is her favorite charity, what he was telling me. But here's the deal. We have sent in 8 reverse osmosis water purification units. That means they're taking salt water and making it into clean drinking water. Got 9 water desalination units in addition to the reverse osmosis. We have more than 20 generators to run essential equipment. And we've also got these interesting lights that they turn a switch, and these things are working off solar power. And I think that's their solar lanterns. And we're running 5 chlorine generators, making 24/7, each producing 150 gallons of chlorine. And the chlorine is what you need to purify the water. So we've got a major water project from Operation Blessing. And the mayor said, you know, we didn't call them. Where'd they come from? Well, Operation Blessing meets the need. They learn where the need is and go to help it. Now, if you want to participate, it's one of the finest charities in the United States of America. It's on the ground and it's helping people. 1-800-700-7000, Operation Blessing, or CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Disaster Relief Fund. It's a wonderful organization. I'm very proud of what's being done. And Bill Horan and his team, David Darg, is down there working. And they get in there and live with the people, and they suffer with them. And they know how to make an intelligent response to their need. But they need clean water, and they're getting it through Operation Blessing. So isn't that exciting?
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
We should mention also at the same time that they're in Puerto Rico, they're still in Florida, they're still in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they are in multiple places and stay to get the job done. So
I've heard of some of the, one other charity that I cannot name, but they're charging people, you know, for like a bologna sandwich, they're charging them $7 or $8 for one of these things. And they charge the government for that. They're getting a lot of money, but people keep saying, where is X? And X ain't there. But where is Operation Blessing? It's right here beside you. And it's going to be here for the duration until we help people through. And so we're carrying them through from Texas, carrying them through from Florida, and now in Puerto Rico. And of course, whatever happened in New Orleans was magnificent, because I was down there with Operation Blessing. And the way they can organize volunteers, by the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers come into work, and Operation Blessing immediately gives them something to do, gives them a project, organizes them, takes them to the site of where they can work. And these people are helping put roofs on homes, and putting in drywall, and taking mold out, and doing all this work of clearing out debris. And all these volunteers, all under the auspices of Operation Blessing. So you need to be completely proud of them. I'm proud of what they're doing.